All right. Shalom, Most High in Christ bless. Soldier Zeph with Solo Zeph Entertainment. You can check right there because I learned how to do this. All right, cool. So we're going to learn how to do basic editing, how I do my editing, how I make it fast, how I make it easy on my machine, and how I gauge when I go take breaks and eat lots of chips because rendering sucks. So let's jump in. A lot of people have asked me questions about what settings do I choose. There's all these different buttons and windows and whatnot. How do I know that I'm on the right settings? So we're going to go into a new project. I'm not saving this project, and we're going to switch projects soon enough, but I want to show you how this works. So when you click on new project, it takes you to a portion where you have to make all these decisions, and we're going to make these decisions easy. I don't touch anything. That is what I do. I leave everything exactly the same. Display format, you want time code. Audio display format, you want audio samples. And capture format, you want HDV or high definition video. Now, the only thing that you're going to have to really look at is your location, where you are storing your footage. Now, mine is registered on my local F drive, which is my 1 terabyte awesome workhorse USB 3 amazing drive. There, everything's fast. It's just as if it was on my main hard drive. You do not want to save this stuff on your main hard drive. You do not want to save this stuff on your main hard drive. Why? Glad you asked. We're going to look at this footage here. That's not what we're going to look at. We're going to go to the pit because that's my 4 terabyte box of amazingness that has all the footage that I want in there. So I loaded in a previous attempt to make this video. I loaded in some footage, which we're going to check out in a second. And this creates these PEC files. Now, these PEC files have all of your metadata, the frame rate speed, the sound waveform, and the image and all of that stuff on it. So you need these PEC files. It makes everything easy and fast and what have you. But these save files, which is asking you to save, are also big files. So these PEC files are just as big as your video files that you're loading into your editor. And on top of that, it has a save file, which is going to be as big as the complete size of all of your footage that you're editing. So you want to make sure that you have that not on your main hard drive because that's going to bog down all of your processes, make your computer slow and sluggish, and promote crashing. And we hate, hold on. We hate crashing because that means you lose all of your footage, all of your data, and that sucks. So we can go to this browse window here, and that's going to open up this window where you can choose. As you can see, I have multiple hard drives. That's a hard drive, that's a hard drive, that's a hard drive, and that's my camera stuff. So I have it on this archive drive, which I specifically named to let me know that's where I archive all my data. So that's where you want it. You want it there if you have one. USB 3 if you have the opportunity to do that, and USB 2 if that's the only thing you can do. And then that will be where all your big gigantic files are stored. So if ever it gets sluggish, you know that just wipe the drive and you're good. As long as you have all of your stuff sent out. Don't wipe your drive if you still have data that you're working on there. Don't do that. Okay, so now my stuff is comfy, nice, and nested perfectly in its nice warm blankets, nested in the F drive. So that's where we want it. And then we're going to give it a title. I'm going to leave it untitled because I'm not going to use this. Okay, maybe I'll call it Untitled 1 or 01. Okay. Yay! So, this is where you get this giant list of stuff. Yours is going to look like this. Pretty confusing because probably none of you know what this stuff is. I'm going to make it easy for you. NorCal and San Diego. You guys use a, generic camcorder. So you're going to use AVCHD, which is audio video channel high definition. That's what you're going to use. Now, the end product is what you're looking for. So you want your box that you use as your TV screen to be 1080p, not 720p. 1080p, not 720p. So that's why we're going to choose 1080p. And your frame rate, which is 1080p 25, 1080p 30, 1080p 60, your frame rate is based on your image. So I'm going to show you a little breakdown of that real quick. This footage is footage after February, after we decided to make the conscious decision to switch from 30 frames a second to 24 frames a second to save file space. So these files are vastly smaller than the files that we used to shoot in 30 frames a second. Let me tell you why. Because 30 frames a second means that for every second of footage, you have 30 pictures that make up that second, like a little flip book or something. For every 1 second, 30 pictures. Or video, like film type video, will every 1 second is 24 pictures. That's the lowest scientific ESAW recommended speed, where your eye captures pictures and turns that into motion. So less pictures means less space. Plain and simple. So this footage is going to be relatively smaller. Let me show you an example. If you look right here, the footage in total, footage and pictures, is 57.4 gigabytes. But if you look over here that we shot in January at 30 frames a second, 203 gigabytes, a lot more than 50. So good decision? Yes. And you guys, because you have the lower quality camera, you're going to have less pixel data, less colors and such like that. So your 30 frames a second is going to be smaller anyway. And because you have the consumer grade camera, which is basically what regular folk buy, as you can, the entertainment portion right there, see, not regular folk. What regular folk buy, it has a compressor on there that takes all the images filed and just sandwiches them together, and it doesn't really care about how it looks. So yeah, all those files are going to be absolutely huge. They're going to be 30 frames a second. So when you come here, you want to make sure that your stage is set at 30 frames a second. So that's what you want to choose there. But for LA, all you guys editing LA footage, you're going to be in 24 frames a second for anything after January. So February and on, you're going to be in 24 frames a second because we switched it. Know that. So NorCal, San Diego, you're going to be in AVCHD, and you're going to pick 1080p, 30 frames a second. That's what you choose. For everybody else, LA, you're going to be in digital SLR. That's what we're using. We're using an SLR camera, so that's what you're going to use, digital SLR, DSLR, okay? And you're going to choose 1080p, 24 frames a second. Now, you'll see over in this area that it doesn't actually say 24 frames a second. It actually says 23.976 frames per second because this camera doesn't shoot true 24 frames a second. You need a cinema grade camera to shoot true 24 frames a second. But, hey, it works. Anyways, so we're going to choose 24 frames a second, and we're going to press OK. But I'm not going to do that because I already have something that I want to show you that is what we're going to be doing here. Open recent projects, and we're going to go to test. This is the one that I tried to make a video about, but I couldn't. So you actually get to benefit from that because you don't have to watch me render. Render takes forever. I made this and it literally took 15 minutes to render just what I have here. So I'm gonna go ahead and break down what I have here, show you the different windows and what they do. Pretty much just explain what you see on the screen up here. So in this little window, that's gonna be your editing window. That's where you're gonna make all your edits. You just double click this little button here and that's gonna open up some footage and you'll be able to edit it, choose what section you want, scrub through it, look at it, see how it looks. Like let's say I just want this section where these people are. So I'm gonna choose this mark in button, my absolute best friend, and bam, it's gonna go to that is the mark that I want. and I want to stop it around here where I'm still on them. And then that closes it. So you get this little gray bar in this general section right here. And so two things you can do. If you click and drag the footage and the audio will come down. You see there's two boxes, one at the top, one at the bottom. One is in the audio section, one's in the video section, right? If you grab this is the drag audio only, as you can see on the screen. And this is the drag video only, as you can see on the screen. So that is how you get this clip down here into the timeline. Now the timeline is what makes up your footage. This is what it looks like as an end product. This is what is going to be rendered out and is going to go up on YouTube. So you want to make sure that this looks really nice. You don't really care about this. This looks nice, don't really care about that. Got it? Cool. Moving on. So here is your bin. This is where everything gets stored. This is where you'll grab your film clips. This is where you'll grab your lower thirds. This is where you'll grab your watermark. This is where all your stuff gets stored. So when you grab a folder like this, you jump into the folder. Let's grab a picture, right? You drop the picture over here, and it will jump into that little thing, and you can pick it and put it places. Okay, so that's where that is. Now, when you first start out, this box down here is access to your folders, so that you can actually get into your folders and grab images and pictures and data and such and just pull it from there. I don't like that. I hate it. I can't see what I'm looking at. I have to actually just know the number of the video, and no, it's irritating. So I'd rather just open up this right here, drag it over there, and drop it in. That way I know exactly what I'm getting, and I'm not editing something I don't want. So I usually come over here at the top and hit effects, which opens up the dissolve tool, which is the only tool that I use for band-aiding, as I call it, the clips together. Because you have something, you got to cut it out, right? Smash it together, and now it jumps from one cut to the next. And you're like, well, how the heck do I make this seamless? You band-aid it, and that you use a transition for. So the transitions are for band-aiding. That's why I call them band-aids. Anyways, so dissolve is the only one that I use because it's the most professional looking one without having to use a lot of time. You just drop it in and it looks professional. That's it. Anything else is going to take time, effort. You're going to have to cut it on certain beats and things like that to make it look professional, but it still won't. It just won't. So that's why we're going to use dissolve. That's the only one that I want to see ever at all. Moving on. So now we're going to move on to the timeline, and this section is what makes this look pretty. So this makes that look pretty. So we want to make sure that this looks neat and that we layer everything in the right layers, because if we don't, then what we're going to run into is things are just going to be out of sync. You're going to have the watermark on top of the intro video and just irritating stuff. So we're going to make sure that this looks nice. So I'm going to show you how to look at that right here, the tilde key on the edge of the one button. You know that button you never, ever use at all? Yeah, that one. We're going to press, bam. It's going to solo that window, and that's all you're going to be able to see. So we're going to look at this objectively here and press the plus button to make it bigger so that we can look at everything even bigger. Now you can see that I have different names and I have more tracks than you have. So if I right click on the tracks, you see I have rename and I have add tracks. So if I go over to add tracks, I will either add video tracks or I'll add audio tracks. Now audio tracks we don't really need because we only have one source of audio. And for video tracks, usually you're going to start out by adding 4. That's usual. You want to have at least 6 to 7 tracks depending on your workflow. I recommend 6. That's what I use. You can have more, but there's really no need for it. So we just click OK, but I already added my track, so we'll be good. Now I go to rename, like the first track, M-A-N-E, man, M-A-I-N, main. There we go. So this is your main footage, your bottom layer. Everything else that you put is going to be on top. I named the second track Cam 2 because, in fact, I'm going to rename it because that E is bugging me. Cam is just C-A-M. All right, so this is how you drop in footage from your camera 2 without having to cut this and space it and such. You just make sure that the audio is exactly the same and you just drop it in and it'll switch your camera angle. Done. It'll pop up on top of the footage. So in that little view, we go back. In this view, it'll switch from this shot to a different shot. I will show you. Bam, and bam. Drop that down. Bam. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so I'm done playing. Now, that just changes your shot. You're done, 2 seconds. And as long as your audio adds up, like let's say we have 2 cameras shooting the same thing, as long as your audio matches up, cool. But what I do is make sure that the audio matches up, that I'm in the right location, here, and I only grab the video. So I don't have 2 audios trying to compete. So I just grab the video, put it in the right location so that his mouth matches up to the words, and I'm done. And right click on this and make sure you hit scale to frame size. Make sure that is clicked. In an advanced version of this, I will go and I'll show you how to make it part of your preferences so that as soon as you drop in the footage, it automatically clicks it. But right now we're not as advanced as we want to be, so there we go. Make sure that that's clicked. Now we're going to move on to the title plate. That's where the little box that says, King James 1611 with Apocrypha and a little gray box pops out. That's the title plate. So on the plate you have the food. The food in which resides on the plate is the scripture. So the title plate will pop out and the scripture will be on top of that. And we'll cover that in its own little tutorial so that you can see how that works. But I did want to cover the alpha channel. Now, alpha channel is something that you guys may not be familiar with. Alpha channel means that it has transparency behind it. So when I pop open this advertisement here, you see that it's a black screen. But if I drop it over this footage right here, it shows what's behind the footage. Remember, shows what's behind the footage, meaning you have to have it layered correctly, which is why advertisements is right here up above the main footage. And when I drop in the advertisements over here, it will, bam, pop up over the main image. Okay, so that's how you have to do that. If you don't do it that way, it won't work. And this is a very intuitive program, a really easy and simple program. You just got to know what buttons do what. That's it. That's all you got to do. And the watermark is the last thing in our timeline. And the reason why it's the last thing in our timeline is because it's the cherry on top of the cake. You wouldn't put the cherry in the middle of the cake because whoever eats the cake might choke on the stem. So you want to make sure the cherry is on top. Boom. Mind bomb. Anyways. Having that on top makes sure that everything else comes underneath that. So make sure the advertisement comes underneath that, the video comes underneath that, all of that. You don't want any of that stuff to be in the wrong layers because then it just won't work right. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the intro. See how I've already edited the footage. Everything's cool. The button that you want to avoid pressing at all costs because it takes for flipping ever is the enter button because that makes you render it. And rendering basically takes all the footage and compiles it all together and makes it nice and happy and married and one flesh. So when you see a yellow line, it's pre-rendered, meaning it already came together. Right? It's already nice. You can play it. It won't hiccup or it should show everything that should be there. When it's a red one, that means it's not rendered, which means there's stuff in there that's not going to play right. So you may see a transition and it might look okay. It might actually look jacked up. But as long as that line's red, that's not exactly how it looks. It's only a preview of how it looks. So to make it look how it's supposed to look, you have to render it. You have to press the enter button. And like I said, for this, which is literally 7 minutes and 30 seconds, it took 15-20 minutes to render when I tried to record this video before. And I was actually letting you watch it render on the video, which is probably why the Lord did not let that video work. So I'm not going to put you through that, but I am going to show you how to put in the intro and the outro, and to make sure that the logo doesn't go on the intro and the outro. So this snap button, you want to make sure it is pressed so that you end up, when you highlight the end here, that little icon lets you move it, shorten it, elongate it, or what have you. And you see those little arrows, that black line, it kind of just snaps to that black line. That lets you know it's at the end of the footage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a box and highlight everything. I'm going to move it down, bam, really far, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to grab the intro, make sure it's the right thing, and I'm going to edit maybe a few seconds off of it. Bam, bam. Actually, no, it's perfect. So I'm just going to drag it and drop it into the main. The main. Remember, the main. Now here's a fun trick. You click in the empty space right here, right? And then you hit the delete button. Bam. It makes sure everything snaps right up against it. Okay? And then you're going to zoom in just a tad. And come over here. And we're going to grab a video transition. We're going to grab the dissolve transition. And the only one we want is the cross dissolve. So if you want to single that out, you just type in cross dissolve, and it'll be the only button that pops up. And so you drag it, and you see how it highlights that right there? You're just gonna bam, drop it on there. Now you see, this is yellow, this is red, meaning this is pre-rendered, this needs to be rendered. Now since it's a small little section, I'm gonna go ahead and press the enter button, and it's gonna render pretty quick because it's only 30 frames, it's literally 1 second of footage. And now we can see what happens. All right, so we saw that after it blanks out about here that it's done. We don't need any more. So what we're gonna do is press the V button. Actually, no, press the C button. That one, I like that one. And that's the razor tool. We're gonna click on this red line, bam, then press the V button to go back to the arrow. We're gonna click and highlight this and press delete. And then we're gonna do the same thing, hit that empty space with a click and hit delete. Bump it right up against there, drop in the cross dissolve. Now it'll let me bridge the gap between the two. Render that because it's only 30 seconds. Takes 2 seconds because I want you to see it. Now, if I was normally doing this, I would not render that until I'm done. But I want you to be able to see it, so I have to render it. You see that? And that's how we do it. Now, if you notice, because of the way I edit this backwards, I put the end caps on backwards. Everything is already set up the way I need it to. That stuff just kind of pops up where it needs to, right? Now, we're going to go to the ending. So we're going to slide right over her. The reason why that took so long is because we were zoomed in. And we're going to grab the ending. And we're going to make sure that that's what it is. We're going to grab it, drop it right there. You see how that snaps right into there? Oops, I want to go right here. And we're going to grab this cross dissolve right here. We're going to drop it on the end, pat out. We're going to hit the render because it's only 30 seconds, and I want you to be able to see it. Now, this is going to play it from the very beginning. I don't want to do that. I want to jump to the end. And you see this yellow bar because that portion is pre-rendered. And there you go. Done. Now, I would do a little bit more on this video because there's pauses, there's, when the camp looks jacked up, the teacher misspeaks, or you try to cover that stuff up. I want you guys to get in the habit of showing and not telling. So the teacher describes something, try to put that image up, whether it's a picture. Remember, when you use Google, I'm going to show you how to use Google real quick. I'm studying, so that's my class. You're going to go to images, and let's say we wanted to pick Bible. All right, so we pick Bible. Now you come up here to search tools. You go to search tools and you go to sizes. And then you're going to go to exactly. You want to type in 1920 because that's what we're editing it by 1080. And you're going to hit go. Now, all the images here are going to be pretty high resolution, 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution. These are the images you need to use. This is the stuff you want to put in there. You don't want to try to take a really small image and make it bigger. You want to take a big image, and if you have to, make the big image smaller. And that's what we want. We don't want any jacked up. This makes us look professional. Okay? This makes us look like, we know what the heck we're doing. Okay? And there's tons of images that you can pick. When I create images like this, where are you at? Go here. When I create images like this, that's 1080p. I look for an image that's 1080p, and then I build on top of it. I edit certain things out, put certain things in, and bada bing, bada boom, there you go. And then I didn't make that, but I did make this. Same thing. I took two images that are 1080p. This castle image in the background was a little bit smaller than I normally would like, but I knew I was going to make it almost not visible, so that's why I use that. So when you guys are looking at images to put on here to cover up stuff, to illustrate stuff, or anything like that, make sure you're looking at 1920 by 1080 because that is the size that you're rendering on. So, things we didn't touch was preferences, shortcuts, and things like that. If you have any other questions, make sure to leave a comment and shoot me a text. Hit me up on Facebook. And make sure you go check out my business, SoloZeph Entertainment, here at the bottom, underneath the facial area. SoloZeph.com and Facebook.com/SoloZeph Entertainment. We make movies, or we will be making movies. We just got started, so we haven't made movies yet. But make sure you guys go check that stuff out. Show your support, show your love, tell your friends, tell your families. If you have scripts, email them to me at Zephaniah@SoloZeph.com. And shalom.